Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your introduction. It's a great pleasure and honor to be speaking at this wonderful event. Today, I would like to talk to you about global business development strategies in the medical AI industry based on our experience as a startup company. So before we start, I'd like to first introduce you about Lunit and what Lunit is about. So we are a startup company based in Seoul, Korea, with a mission to conquer cancers through artificial intelligence. We were founded in 2013. We're based in Seoul, Korea, but we also have active operations in US, Europe, and China. Through our AI technology, what we're trying to do is enable more effective diagnosis of cancer and more effective treatment by analyzing various medical AI data, such as imaging data like chest X-ray, mammography, and other data such as digital pathology. Our high-end technology, deep learning technology, has been recognized to be world-leading in various competitions. We're recognized by the World Economic Forum and CB Insights. And through our first line of products, we have successfully commercialized in various countries, over 30 countries, and we have over 250 paying customers, which is hospitals throughout the world. We're partnering with major medical device companies such as GE, Philips, and Fuji, which has been our main strategy to commercialize globally. So I would like to first start off with a basic market introduction of the market that we're part in. So we're part in, I guess, in a high-end, a high-level perspective, we're part of the medical device industry. And the medical device industry is dominated by major players such as companies that you've heard of, like Medtronic, Philips, GE, Siemens are the major players. There are many sectors, cardiology, in vitro diagnostics, and diagnostic imaging is one of the major sectors of this market. The medical imaging sector is a rapidly growing sector, mainly based on chronic diseases driving more imaging. And within that industry, you can see the types of imaging that's done, like chest X-ray or X-ray, MRI, ultrasound, CT. And you can see how the X-ray part is the largest and fastest growing. The global market scenario is dominated by North America and Europe, but the Asia Pacific market is the fastest growing market. And here the key point is really about who our customer is. And that's really the key question that we ask ourselves. So who is our main customer? And in this sector, our main customer is hospitals and diagnostic imaging centers, which cover more than 90% of the market. So it's mainly a B2B business rather than a B2C business. So it's really focused on targeting the hospitals. The major needs in medical imaging industry are mainly two things. One is there's a very rapidly increasing number of images that's taken throughout the world, but there's an imbalance between the growing number of images and the number of experts who interpret those images. So there's a large gap between those growth. So obviously there's an increase in demand for efficiency. And also the second part is accuracy. There's an inherent limitation in terms of accuracy of these images that needs to be improved for better patient care. And AI, like in many other industries, has been used to address these market needs, whether it be the accuracy need or efficiency. There's been a lot of investment that has been done on this industry. So I'm thinking like thousands of startups throughout the world through investments from VCs, etc. And that has started around like 6-7 years ago. And now a lot of these companies have successfully developed clinical applications based on AI that have been regulatory approved and that have been started being used in the actual clinical practice. So there's a big transition in terms of these AI products becoming now clinically available in the market. And we're really seeing the initial phase of that transition from research to commercialization. So the healthcare AI market. So a lot of AI companies developing their own products. So this itself can be regarded as an industry. And the healthcare AI market is actually growing really fast, annual growth rate of over 50% and expected to grow over 40 billion in terms of the market size. And you can see in the right the sectors of what different types of AI products are used for different sectors. And here, medical imaging and diagnostics is among the major sectors, and it's actually the fastest growing sector of this industry, which we are part of. So that was a brief introduction of the market. I'd like to go ahead to the next main section of my presentation, where I'll be talking to you about our first-hand experience trying to commercialize in a global scale and in the medical imaging AI industry, and what I think are the key strategies of successfully commercializing from a global scale. I think there's four main factors that we can categorize. One is sales, so global sales. How do we sell from a global perspective? And product. How should we develop the product that addresses the various different settings from a global perspective? And as a healthcare product or company, clinical validation is important, and how do we do that from a global scale? And as a healthcare industry, part of the scale industry, it's important to address and understand the regional healthcare policies or government-driven projects that take a large portion of business development, and especially in underdeveloped and developing countries. So starting with sales, so we are a startup company based in Korea. We are a tech-based company, and there's a lot of companies like us who are based on tech, who do not have much of an established sales channel. So there are mainly two ways of going at it. So one is direct. So direct sales would be having our own sales team or having distributors that directly sell our products exclusively or non-exclusively. And then there's the indirect sales way, where we have licensing deals with major partners or major device vendors that sell our products or AI products combined with their device products as a whole, as a package. And in that process would be distributing our AI solution through their channels. And naturally, because of the scale, it's unrealistic for companies like us, a tech-based company, to really do direct sales from a global scale. So we have identified that would be our key strategy from the beginning, and we have focused on establishing key partnerships with these medical device vendors as our major distributor, major partner. But we also do combine that with some of our own direct sales to boost that effort. So we do not depend only on the sales through our medical device vendors, but we do have our own local sales team in major key countries like Mexico, Brazil, Europe, and we're expanding more and more. But it has really mainly been focused on establishing that partnership with the major vendors. So we have been successful in establishing key partnerships with GE Healthcare, Philips, and Fuji, and others. And we're expanding our partnerships in our efforts to expand our reach of the market. Our partners cover around 50% of the global market share of the X-ray business and PACS business, and perhaps a little less, but growing for the mammography market. And the advantages of sales through these partnerships, I think, can be summarized into four key reasons. One, the obvious part, distribution through already established sales channel. So we do not have to establish that sales channel throughout the world. They already have that sales channel. That's what they're good. They've been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years. So by leveraging their already established sales channel, we can get access to that sales channel and scale out our business throughout the world. There's another factor is credibility. So in hospitals, when they purchase products, credibility, branding is a very important aspect when they decide on which product to purchase. And as a startup company in Korea, it's difficult for us to have good visibility in every country. So in Korea, a lot of hospitals or a lot of doctors, professors recognize our name. But if you go beyond that, it becomes difficult. So by going through these partnerships and having our products in the quotation of our partners that already have that relationship and already have that branding, it raises our branding of our products. From a exclusivity or distributorship perspective, these partners select only a few selected partners for these kind of partnerships. So, for example, for our chest X-ray business with GE or Fuji, we are the only ones that supply AI products specific for chest X-ray. The legal relationship is non-exclusive, so we are also partnering with Philips and others. But there's a practical exclusivity going on in terms of the actual business. So the vast majority of our competitors do not have access to these established distribution channel, which really gives us a major advantage in terms of the commercialization efforts. And the fourth reason is also a very important reason where sales to hospitals is mainly through pre-allocated budget. So when hospitals purchase a product, it's not that they already have a budget that they can flexibly use when they purchase products. It's usually an annual based budget that's pre-allocated. So it's really difficult to enter as a new product like in the middle of the year. But hospitals regularly allocate some of their budget to upgrading their devices, of purchasing new devices. And when we enter the hospitals through these kind of purchase process, it becomes much easier to actually have our AI sold to these hospitals. And the most common example that I make is when you buy a car, you have a speaker as an option. And so when you buy a car and you want a good speaker, you can actually make the option of purchasing one. So when you actually buy the car, you actually think about, what speaker do I want? But then once you buy the car, it becomes difficult for anyone to sell you a speaker to your car. So that's a very good analogy. So going through these partnerships really gives us advantage in terms of opening the wallet of our customers. So a lot of people ask us what was our strategy in terms of winning over these key partnerships. There are two main reasons. One is we have consistently proven that our AI products are the best through various diligences, and we also have publicly available peer-reviewed journals that have validated that our products are best in class. And the second part is the academic credibility is also a very important aspect that these vendors look for, because it makes them easier to sell our products with their products. So these kind of academic credibility is something that the customers look for, and because we have that, it's one of the reasons why we're successful in winning over these partnerships. So these are some photos of actual use of how our AI is integrated directly into the products of our partners. You can see how the X-ray machines have embedded AI products that the customers can use. So this is how it looks like with Fuji and GE. Yeah. And the second strategy is really for product development, and this is really a specific factors for AI. And we make sure, even from a product development perspective, for training the AI on making the AI consistent to the race or the country or the actual device. There are many devices. There's devices of Hologic, there's devices of GE or Siemens. So we make sure that when we train our algorithm, that our algorithm works in a very general way, that it can be, the performance level is maintained in all these various settings. And the workflow integration is also very important. As we're dealing with various vendors, we're dealing with various sites throughout the world that have different systems, different platforms in the hospital, the IT system, where the software will be integrated into. It's important to have our software very flexible that can be integrated into all these various settings. And this is something that we had a lot of trouble in the early days, like maybe 2 years ago, where we had our product, it's good, and they know, but when we enter a specific hospital, the IT system is very unique, very different from what we have experienced. So we would build that, customize that. And once we actually went through that cycle, maybe a year or more, our products were more kind of generally applicable to various workflow that in various settings in the world. And the regulatory approval is also a very important aspect for any healthcare business, and there's no exception for the medical imaging part. And timely regulatory approvals. And we are approved currently in 38 countries. We're expanding that rapidly, and it takes a lot of effort. And I think this is something that there is no shortcut, really. You just have to do it. You have to prioritize which countries are most important for you in the beginning. We targeted Europe, and also like Southeast Asia was also another area that we targeted. And we also went commercial from countries that did not require strict regulatory approval. For example, like Mexico is a good country where the regulatory burden is not as high. So we start with those countries, and then we move on to more of the major countries and so on. Clinical validation is I think it's a universally an important aspect for business development in healthcare and also in medical imaging. And we've done a lot of research in validating our the clinical value proposition of our product in the clinical setting. But we've done that in many regions. It's not just in Korea, not just in the US, but also in Europe and in other various countries. So we really make sure that our clinical validations are also from a local perspective that are accepted by the local customers. There are many healthcare policies that we need to take into account when we go into every country. The payer, the provider, and the patient relationship is very unique in many countries, although there are many common aspects that we look for. And we really make sure that we understand each region in terms of these policies. Reimbursement is also a very important aspect that we need to take into account. And the United States has been the country with, I think they've been most active in reimbursing AI products. So we already have successful cases that are being reimbursed in the United States, and I expect the number to be growing very fast. And for example, in Europe, mammography reading is done by double reading. So 2 radiologists need to read mammography, and it's mandated by the government. So the strategy, it becomes different. The value proposition becomes different. So we went forward, and we are clinically validating how AI can replace the second reader rather than the reader itself, as a double reading is done in Europe. Government-driven projects is also a very important aspect, especially in underdeveloped countries. And for example, WHO is a good example of where we have done a lot of research 3 years ago, and we have successfully been included in the WHO guideline to be a good option for TB screening by chest X-ray. And we have to understand how this works. So the UN funds these governments, local governments, and these local governments fund the healthcare ecosystem, and that's where we would get the fund. So we would need to understand how this works, and this is very unique for each setting, whether it be disease specific or whether it be cancer screening specific, etc. This is also very important. So I'll end my presentation. Thank you very much.